again to just put your names in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. We have a great turnout for tonight's meeting with the Attorney General.
All right, we're good. We're live.
And we've gotten a couple comments. I've been getting a couple texts that the YouTube isn't live yet, but just if you're getting any, there's a little bit of a lag. So it should be starting shortly. So in the meantime, just keep introducing yourself in the chat. And if you're with an Indivisible group, you can include that as well. We're just really glad to have you all here. So team, I'm going to get started. Okay. All right. So the next slide, Jordan, my name is Rebecca Larson. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining tonight's call. I am one of the co-leaders of Indivisible Twin Cities, and we are the host of tonight's gathering with Attorney General Keith Ellison. But before we begin, I just want to say a few words about who we are. ITC, as we call ourselves, Indivisible Twin Cities, is a volunteer-led local chapter of the Indivisible movement, which was started in 2016 and 17 by Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg, who are both still the co-directors of Indivisible, the national organization. And that is now a movement that has grown over the years and established itself as a leader in this moment, as you have no doubt heard. So within Indivisible Twin Cities, we are right now doing our best. One of our goals is to Trump-proof our state to the extent possible with the tools that we have as activists, and to push our mostly Democratic leaders to step into this crisis, which is a crisis, with courage, strength, and noise. So in some cases, we're asking them to be a little louder. We are also building our capacity as a local chapter to do more with all of this new energy, evidenced by the fact that we probably have close to 700 people on the Zoom call. And not sure yet how many are on the YouTube channel, but we'll hear that soon, I'm sure. And we really appreciate all of you being here, and hope more than anything that you continue to show up as active citizens and in a way that works for you. So if you've contacted us about volunteering, thank you for doing that. And we ask really for your patience as we continue to organize during this very different and difficult time. So I want to read a quote by one of my heroes, who's the writer and activist Rebecca Solnit, and she wrote this shortly after the election. And I think it's very appropriate for where we are these days. We do not know what will happen, but we can know who we can commit to be in the face of what happens. That is a strong beginning. The fact that we cannot save everything does not mean we cannot save anything. And everything we can save is worth saving. So whatever you are doing in this moment, thank you. And just remember that everything matters, whether it's calling your reps, writing postcards, standing on corners with a sign, or at a Tesla dealership, as many of you did last weekend, or at the state capitol. It all matters, and we all need to keep at it together. Next, I want to welcome participants from all over the state, with a special call out to our allies from around the state representing a whole lot of Indivisible chapters. So Jordan, if you can move back to the other slide that lists all of them. These are people who have joined us tonight and have co-sponsored this event. Also, some of these groups are holding watch parties with groups that are gathered in living rooms or libraries, or maybe even bars, I don't know. But if you are hosting a watch team, please introduce yourself in the chat with a hello, or even change your name on your Zoom name to say, watch party in Duluth or watch party in Winona. And we know that there are groups holding watch parties from Zenith City Indivisible in Duluth, which is a brand new group. Congratulations. Indivisible Brigade, which is Pine and Kanabec counties, and Indivisible Rochester, Minnesota, as well as Winona. So if there are others, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Really happy to have you all here. And we have heard that Attorney General Keith Ellison really likes a crowd. But unfortunately, we couldn't be together in one room tonight, but we want to make sure that at least we give him the vibe of a crowd. So again, keep introducing yourself so he knows that you're here, and let him know that we're a crowd in spirit, I guess we could say. We also want to welcome the people who are watching on YouTube. So as you probably know, or you may know, Zoom licenses have a limit, and we reached that limit pretty quickly for this event. So that's why we offered live streaming on YouTube. We've turned off comments there because our monitors are going to be busy monitoring the Zoom chat. But whether you're here with Zoom or YouTube, we're really happy to have you join us. We have collected questions from many of you in advance that we'll be asking the Attorney General tonight. But if you have questions during the session itself, please use the Q&A function on the webinar menu to ask them. That's what we'll be monitoring for questions for the Attorney General. Otherwise, use the chat if you have general questions or comments. And we'll try to get to as many of your questions as we can in the time that we have allotted. So if the Attorney General is here, I am now want to turn it over to my colleague, Lisa Erbs from Indivisible Twin Cities, and Minnesota's Attorney General, Keith Ellison. Welcome, and thank you for being here so much.
Hi, everybody. Boy, it's fun to see all these people and faces, and everybody's going, the chat's just been going crazy with everybody signing in. So thanks for coming. Oh, and there's the Attorney General. I see you. Hi. Okay, that's even better. Now I can see you much better. So as Rebecca said, my name's Lisa Erbs, and I am one of the co-leaders for Indivisible Twin Cities. And we've gotten a lot of really good questions already from people that we're going to be trying to get to tonight. There's a lot of them. And so we've tried to take them and kind of put them into categories, because a lot of you asked similar questions, or they all had to do with a particular subject. So you may not hear your exact question worded exactly the way you asked it, but we'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. And like Rebecca said, if you have a question now while we're going through this, you can put it in the Q&A and we'll try to get to it. So we'll just see how we do on time. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get to it. Hello, Attorney General Ellison.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We are so excited that you could come and be with us.
Oh yeah,
I know
there's
how
nowhere
incredibly
else to
busy
be.
you are. Good.
No,
Well, thank you.
there's nowhere else to be.
Good.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to everyone on the call. Would you like me to make some comments, or would you like me to just respond to questions? I'm free to do either.
No, we would love for you to make some comments. One of the things we were thinking, if you could just kind of give us a little bit of your history, where you grew up, and what brought you to be, well, we know how you became the Attorney General, obvious, but what kind of compelled you to run for that office, and then a little bit about what the Attorney General's office does.
Yeah. So I was born in the city of Detroit to two Southerners. My dad's family was from a place called Sardis, Georgia. My mother is from a place called Natchitoches, Louisiana. And my mother's father, his name was Frank Martinez, and he was an active member in the NAACP. And he was so busy that they would they would call the house and tell my grandmother, we got that in tied up to a tree and he ain't coming home. And thank God they never did actually have him tied up to a tree, but they would wanted to terrorize her, to put pressure on him to stop what he was doing. But he didn't stop, and he, really was part of those. He was one of that great mass of people who the world may not know, but people in Natchitoches do, and he was really doing what he could do. And my mother, his daughter, raised us in that same spirit. My mother went to a little college in New Orleans called Xavier, and Xavier was a what they call historically black college because they wouldn't let her go to LSU, you know. And so she had her own activism. She would tell us that she would steal the whites only signs off of the buses and the trains, put them in her bag, and she had like a big stack of them by the time she graduated. She raised
That's
us.
awesome.
She raised us to speak up, to not back down. My father was the same sort of fellow, although he was a lot more focused on, earning money and stuff like that. He believed that it was right and proper to stand up for justice. And so my mom and dad, they committed themselves to lives of service. So when somebody said to me, hey, your son, Jeremiah, he's following in your footsteps. I said, is he following in my footsteps? Or is he following in Frank Martinez's footsteps or Clyde Martinez Ellison footsteps? It's a family tradition. And so the thing that's kind of, but I grew up in Detroit. I have two older brothers, two younger. All of us are in service oriented stuff. My oldest brother is an internist. He's a gerontologist. He's a medical doctor and takes care of senior citizens. My brother older than my other brother, who's also older than me, is he's a minister, a Baptist minister, if you believe that. We were raised very Catholic. And then my two younger brothers are both lawyers, and they both press the claims of ordinary working people in Boston and North Carolina. So that's my family. My wife, she's is Monica Hurtado. I don't know if y'all know her. She's at Voices for Racial Justice, and we're very proud of her and the work that she does to try to make the world a better place. So I kind of got to activism because I was raised by activists. And so all I did is I just modeled what was put in front of me. And that's why I urge people, bring your kids to the voting booth. Bring your kids to the march. Don't preach at them about justice, show it to them. And it'll make a big difference on them. So, I'm the Attorney General now, but for 12 years I was in Congress. I got to Congress quite by accident. I was certain I was not going to win back in 2006. I figured that other people who had more, exposure than me would win, but I had a burning passion to speak against the Iraq War. And so I was speaking out against the Iraq War. People were giving me the microphone and I was writing op-eds against it. And other people who were really probably did have a better chance from a conventional standpoint than I did, they didn't want to take a position on the Iraq War. But my only point was to make whoever was going to win stand up stand up and say no to the Iraq War. And I didn't think I was running for valedictorian, nor did I think I was running for chief policy aide. I was running for Congress, and that means you're supposed to make value statements and then let the smart people figure out how to do it. And so I said, out now, right now, yesterday. It's all based on a lie. And somehow I won that race. And that was a long time ago because then I was in Congress for like 12 years. I was a chair of the Progressive Caucus, helped build the organization. It's still growing. And then when Lori Swanson decided to run for governor, I really had a chance to do what my heart's desire was telling me, which is to run to the front line of the fight. And because as a member of Congress, you can make your votes and you can introduce bills and you can give speeches, but you really can't make people, you cannot enforce the law. You can just write it. And so I decided to run because I wanted to hold ExxonMobil accountable. I wanted to sue Glock, for all their proliferation of guns. And we're doing all that now. And so that's where it's at. Like right now, I've viewed it as I view it as a great privilege to be able to stand up for the rule of law with you. I view it as a great honor to have been able to represent the state of Minnesota, prosecuting the police who killed George Floyd. And quite honestly, somebody was telling me way back then, this is somebody who cared about me and is a good friend. Keith, do not take that Floyd case. Well, why not? Because if you win, the cops are going to be mad at you. And if you lose, the people are going to be mad at you. So don't do it. But I was more mindful of what my mom would have said. Boy, I expect you to do the right thing. Absolutely. And I tell you, my mom died from COVID. But I tell you, one of the things that I'll never forget from her is that one time, remember the Pulse nightclub shooting?
Mhm.
Who
Oh, yeah.
remembers that? And so John Lewis and a few others, and y'all know the great John Lewis, they went and took the House floor and protested on the House floor and wouldn't let any business go. I was in the middle of a meeting, a very important meeting. It was an important meeting. And then my assistant gave me a note that said, "Your mother says get to the floor." I showed that person this card that my assistant gave me from my mom. Keith, get to the House floor. They took a picture of it and it went viral. It was funny. And I did go to the House floor. My mother's impulses are she wanted her kids doing all they could to stand up against lies and hatred and brutality and victimization of others. So there you go. That's a little bit about
Wow.
me.
That, that's that's good. I'm not originally from Minnesota, so I'm not as familiar maybe with your history as a lot of other people. And I smiled when you said that your father was from Georgia, because I'm from Georgia too.
Oh, what part of Georgia?
So Atlanta. I grew up in Atlanta.
Do
So
you know where Burke County and Scriven County are?
no.
Well, they're
It,
closer to Savannah. They're closer to Savannah.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Georgia's got more counties than any other state in the union. So
Yeah,
it's
they
hard
got
to
a lot.
keep up with them. All right, well, let's get down to business here.
You bet.
So one of the first things we wanted to ask you about was if you could give us an update on all of the current litigation that is going
Right.
on with what's going on, with the things that you are engaged with that's against the administration.
I can sure do it. But Scriven County.
Somebody
Scriven
there?
County, Georgia has the individual chapter. Scriven is right next to Burke. So there you go. Anyway, thank you for that, whoever shared.
That was
Huh?
Scott Ekus, head
Okay,
of
well,
Minnesota Indivisible, shared us that knowledge. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's proper right there. So, the Democratic Attorney General's Association website, I think you can go on and get a blow by blow, day by day. I know they were working on it, and I think it's up. But let me tell you what I got for you. So it started out on January 21st with birthright citizenship. Our office sued with 22 other states to block the president's unconstitutional executive order that purports to end birthright citizenship. We on February 10th, a Maryland federal judge blocked the order, and that was the third judge to do so. And so that one is held up in three different places. And I didn't say DAFL, I said DAGA, Democratic Attorney General's Association. Although we should get a tracker going up on the DFL website. Then the next one was the federal funding freeze. I might refer to it as impoundment. So if I say impoundment, I'm talking about the funding freeze, all right? And so that one on the 28th, we sued him and we to stop him from withholding essential federal funds, health, education, law enforcement, disaster relief, and other essential state programs. On the 31st of January, a federal judge in Rhode Island issued a temporary restraining order prohibiting Trump from imposing this blanket freeze on funding. February 7th, we filed a motion of enforcement and was granted. And last Friday, on the 28th, we filed a second motion for enforcement with the court, citing at least 140 grants from FEMA that are still frozen, which threaten critical emergency preparedness and recovery from wildfires, floods, cybersecurity, and more. So they're holding up emergency aid. This is them.
Mm-hmm.
Then the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, Treasury Access, we sued with 18 other states against Trump administration to stop the unauthorized disclosure of Americans' private information and sensitive data and hold DOGE access to unauthorized access to the Treasury Department's central payment system and therefore to the Americans' most sensitive personal information, including bank account details and social security numbers. The latest, on Friday, February 21st, the court issued a preliminary injunction.
Can I just stop you on that one? Because we got a ton of questions about this in particular, with people who are just super concerned about their private information being exposed.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a security breach. There's really no other way to describe it.
Right.
So, so on that one in particular, what should people do about it? Like, it's great that you guys have this lawsuit out there, but is there anything that we as citizens can be doing about this? And it's other than just sitting here going, "Oh no, they have my data."
Yes. Let me just tell you, I got a lot more to tell you but I don't want to tell y'all stuff you don't need to know or don't want to hear about. But I will tell you that I'm here to tell you, and my main message tonight is that this battle will not be won in a courtroom. It'll be won in a court of public opinion. It'll be won on the streets of our country. It'll be won in every town hall, just like this one. It'll be won in marches. It'll be won. I'm trying to get our artists to do like a poetry slam or a spoken word thing on how these executive orders are affecting them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we need the artistic community to make right to really raise people's emotions around this. I mean, I think one of the songs that you guys were playing when we started was from Les Miserables. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Well, think about how that song
That was not an accident.
think about how that song makes you feel inside. It makes you feel like things are possible. It makes you feel like standing together with your neighbors could maybe just work. So we got to get our artistic community in gear now, right away. There was this one little guy who wrote some song and when the United Health tragic situation happened with the executive there, man, that song went viral because everybody knows that company's been ripping people off for years. And so what I'm telling you is we need everybody doing everything. If you think that somebody else is going to handle it, they're not. But everybody can do something. Everybody
And
can.
that's what. Yeah, that's kind of what we've been telling people, because we've been, just inundated with people who are interested in being involved and doing things, and that's really the message we've been trying to send, is that everything matters now. Every bit of it matters. One question though on that was the ruling by Judge Chutkan.
Yeah.
That kind of made people feel like, well, maybe these lawsuits in this particular area aren't going to help us. I mean, did you see that as something negative? No. Or okay, good.
No, so Judge Chutkan didn't grant a restraining order, but she didn't dismiss our case. She said, this seems almost certainly illegal and why the appointments clause was drafted, but you guys need to bring more evidence of harm and show how this is impacting your states. So I'm not worried about that lawsuit. I wish she would have enjoined him, but she did not. Our case is moving forward.
Okay. Do you have a timeline on that, or
No,
that's the
because
only thing you can?
if I don't have a timeline because nobody has a timeline. I mean, part of it will be it should be soon. Should be soon. A week or two, or maybe less. I don't know, but let's just keep an eye on it together. But courts generally don't just they do things when they do things. They issue their orders when they want to issue them. And I've been a lawyer for 35 years. Let me tell you, I wish I'm like you, Lisa. I'm like, when, but they tend not to do just because what I say.
Well, on that note,
But we've won every other
oh,
lawsuit, by the way.
yeah.
We've won every other one. Every other one, we've won temporary injunctions, restraining orders. That's the only one we didn't get the relief we wanted when we wanted it.
Okay.
So
one of the questions that came up time and time again too, this is kind of a good segue into that, was what happens if Trump just refuses to obey the court orders, which he's been basically doing? I mean, I don't think we're seeing nearly enough reporting on it, but he's not following the rules of what the court is putting out there. So what do we do?
We've taken 2 enforcement actions in our impoundment case.
Mhm.
We've done 2 impoundment actions in our impoundment case, and he's working up on contempt, and they know it.
So what would that entail? I mean, or involve if he's brought up on contempt? I mean, I guess the question really is, and I know it's difficult, and you probably don't have the answer for it,
I'm not
but
saying it's difficult. Wait a minute. I didn't say anything.
oh, well, I know, but I'm just saying,
No, don't.
is it going to
Let me
be
speak for myself. Yeah.
Okay.
No, go for it. Yeah. Your
Well, no, I
question.
was just the question is if he's not going to obey the court orders and he's being held in contempt, how is that enforced?
Well, a lot of things. You can start assessing fines on him personally. You can start assessing fines on people who have the duty to respond properly. Not necessarily him, but maybe some secretaries of state or secretaries of various agencies. You can. There's a lot of things that you can do. Please don't say we can't do anything. Defeat him is the very last thing we need. It is not allowed. I can't stress that enough. Uh, you know, and courts will assess fines. Somebody just flashed that question. And so, but defeatism, that's when they don't have to beat you because they already got you because you quit in advance. And like, there's a lot of questions going on around what are we going to do if he doesn't obey the court orders? Let's find out when he doesn't obey. What he has obeyed some.
Okay.
The money is turned on in a lot of areas. I mean, I'm not saying that all the money's turned on. It's not. I can tell you that it's not. I got a list of how it's not. But I'm telling you that for the most part, it is. Our
Okay.
federal agencies in Minnesota are getting their money for the most part, sometimes slower than they're supposed to. But right after he filed this piece of crap executive order, they were frozen. We sue them, then they're unfrozen. Some are, some aren't. I think some of them screwed up. They didn't know what they were doing. I'm not sure all of their failure to turn the money back on is spiteful. I think some of it's incompetence.
I wouldn't doubt that. Okay, so on another question that came up too was, is there a way that Minnesota's protections for people's civil liberties can override what the federal government may be doing? In particular, trans rights. Another one that has come up recently is the SAVE Act, which is basically a voter suppression bill, however they want to describe it, which is basically telling people that if you register to vote, you have to have a birth certificate to prove your name, which would basically disenfranchise most married women. The question really is does Minnesota have a way to protect those rights, even if the federal government passes these laws that basically take those rights away.
Well, when we talk about the SAVE Act, we're talking about a legislative proposal.
Mhm.
And when we're talking about a lot of these executive orders, it's just the president's executive order. You have to fight them different ways because they're different problems.
Mhm.
When it comes to the SAVE Act, which would, if passed, be an act of Congress, it could very well be unconstitutional. And the reason why is that voting is up to the states. Did you notice that in
Yeah.
some states, if you got a felony, you can't vote? In some states, you can. Some
Right.
states, I mean, they vary because these are things left to the state. The 10th Amendment has been a good friend. When y'all need to go read it and read it again, because when the federal government tries to bully us into doing what they want, we're fighting back with the 10th Amendment. Now, it may shock some of y'all who are old enough to know when they were the guys who said states' rights and we were the guys who said civil rights. But at the end of the day, the state of the federal government is a government of limited authority. They can do what's specified in the Constitution, but they can't do other stuff. And they certainly can't commandeer and coerce. Do y'all remember when the Affordable Care Act was passed, Obamacare, and yet we had to go persuade some of these states to extend the Medicaid expansion, and some of them haven't done it even yet. Why couldn't the federal government make everybody just do the Medicaid expansion? Because the federal government cannot coerce states that way,
Well, that's,
right?
I'm glad you brought that up because that does, I think that you just made a whole lot of us feel better about the fact that Minnesota can protect us in certain ways with things like that. Because we've, during the last sessions, we've passed a lot of protections for people, and we'd all hate to see things like that kind of become null and void. So it doesn't sound like they would necessarily. So yay.
Well, let me just tell you, I got 4.5 years worth of gas in my tank. I ain't no way tired. I will fight this dude every single damn day between now and when we're rid of him.
Yay. Good.
Just so you
All
know.
right. Okay. Well, we kind of thought that, but it's nice to hear you say it. So another question is, and this kind of is along these lines, but um, where, we know, again, this might be out of your
Let's see.
area,
Ask me.
but I will. I'm just trying to form it in my head a little bit.
Okay.
So Congress agrees to fund the government, right? They pass legislation, they pass a budget,
Power of the
and
purse.
off it goes, right? And the money is allocated and it goes to where it's supposed to go. He's trying to stop all of that, obviously. Um, Other than the lawsuits that you all have brought, is there other things that can be done, like withholding federal taxes or making compacts with other blue states? I mean, is there other methods besides lawsuits?
Well, you know what? There might be. I might not be creative or smart enough to think of it. Maybe somebody on this call can. That's why we got to get together because all of us together is smarter than any one person. I'm a lawyer. I'm a creature of the courtroom and lawsuits, right? So that's what I go to. It's like if you ask a carpenter and say, well, we just got to nail it down, you know? So, but I'm going to come at it with a lawsuit, right? But there might be some of you all on here who can think of some very good things to do. I can tell you that there's many ways to protest what Trump is doing as there are those of us willing to imagine it. And we need to start imagining it. Our biggest tool now will be imagination. And we've got to be very creative in the way we push back against this guy. And we've got to start protecting our elections now. Don't start protecting the election in 2026. Start protecting it now. And we got a great Secretary of State in Steve Simon. So I feel good about it.
Yeah. So we had a lot of questions about Elon Musk and Doge, and I don't
Yeah.
want tonight to be all about that because it seems like everything is all about that right now. But I do want to just ask a couple of questions that came up. Like, is there any state criminal charges that can be brought against that group and Elon Musk and his team of computer hackers?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there might well be. Um, right now, we've been defending our institutions, but I mean, it's a crime. I mean, to violate people's privacy in many states, including Minnesota, depending on how they do it. So, I mean, I don't think we should take that off the table at all. I think that it is certainly something that we got to explore and engage in. And you know, criminal case, it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you start thinking about a range of things, I think that we should not take it off the table. I will tell you this, friends, and I do need to tell you this because I don't want to upset you, but I need to tell you, a time will come in the next several months when Kash Patel is going to start arresting people who you know.
Mhm.
People who you know will be in custody on things that they didn't do, and it's going to be completely political. I hope that doesn't scare you. Be ready when I told you that it was going to happen. They might be journalists who print something unflattering. There might be elected officials who won't go along. They might be some of you who spoke up against him and he didn't like the tweet you sent out. But this is the kind of stuff that these dictators do. And I hope I'm not scaring y'all, but I just need to tell you that we will get through it. We will. We absolutely will. But I just tell you that because I think forewarned is forearmed. And the emotional reaction you're going to have, you can start getting over it now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I hope I didn't upset anybody. At least I didn't want to do that. But
Oh, no, I don't think you did. And I think most of us have a pretty realistic opinion about some of those things that are going to probably happen. And, as bad as everything seems to be today, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. So we just have to prepare ourselves for it. So,
if it
um,
happened, yeah, if it happened in um, under I don't know, Mussolini, or if it happened under Franco, it's probably going to happen now here.
yeah. So I'm going to move to our next little bucket of questions. This is about the federal workforce and so many of the people who have lost their jobs. And uh, I guess the way I would word this is there anything within your power as the Attorney
Yeah.
General that would protect the federal workforce of the people who live in Minnesota who
Yes.
have lost their jobs or are in danger of losing their jobs?
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of stuff now. Okay. So one of the things that we're doing is it is saving jobs that we filed a temporary restraining order and the judge granted one, barring Doge's unauthorized access to treasury payment systems and the people who operate them. So that is held on a few folks' jobs. The Consumer Protection Bureau, we haven't really gotten the doors open yet, but we filed 22 of us filed an amicus brief in support of the lawsuit against Trump for shuttering and defunding it. And today, we filed a case supporting Gwen Wilcox, who works at the National Labor Relations Board. She was on that board,
Mhm.
and we filed a case to support her to get her job back. And then we're about to file a lawsuit like within the next 24, 48 hours on this issue exactly. So if is this anybody in the press, or is this a press meeting?
Well,
I'm not
we
trying to
did
make
send
moves
out,
tonight.
yeah, we sent out a press
Okay.
advisory,
Well, you know what?
but we don't know if they're here.
You know what? Ignore that what I said about that other lawsuit. What I will say though is we are imminently about to file a case to protect federal workers. All right, including in Minnesota. By the way, there's federal workers all over the country. They're not just in D.C. and Maryland and Virginia. I mean, the EPA workers in Arizona. There's all kinds of them. Um, and so this issue of protecting federal workers is a top consideration and we believe in action is imminent. I'll just leave it right like that, so I don't
Okay.
make.
Good to know.
Yeah, and somebody said, well, if they'd have gave 60 those people, I said, well, then they damn well should have given 60 days notice. We're not going to let them miss a trick, and we're going to fight on every front all the time. We're going to vindicate every right. Because
One
right
thing
now,
that,
yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. No, you go ahead and
no.
finish.
I was just going to say,
Well,
Trump and Musk are highly sensitive about their numbers. You start seeing Trump's numbers get into the 30s again, you never know what he ends up. You never know what we can make him do. I think we ought to try. We got to push his numbers down. That's why we've got to, all of us on this call, got to call all of our friends and start saying, do you know what this guy's doing? I mean, I know you voted for him, and I was just going to say, Lisa, and I hope you'll allow me to just say, friends, don't shame people who voted for Trump or who didn't vote or who voted for Stein. Don't do that because it's not going to do us any good. And we need them to make a conversion. Now, if they want to talk about their conversion, give them a microphone. But let me tell you, we got to be in it to win it. And as emotionally satisfying as it would be to say, I told you so, we got to resist that temptation.
yeah, I agree. It's not always easy, but let's see. Where am I here? Okay. We had a couple of questions about DEI
Yeah,
and wanted, in particular, people wanted to know if there's anything that can be done to protect DEI efforts and policies in our schools, in the Minnesota schools.
yeah. Well, absolutely. Um, Let me tell you, there was a good case. Just a few days ago, 5 days ago, a federal judge issued a nationwide injunction against President Trump's executive orders that target diversity, equity, and inclusion. So government contractors and other employers, as well as grant recipients and DEI proponents, still should proceed with their DEI programs. And so let me just tell you, um, one thing I hope all of us can do is write letters to the University of Minnesota president, write letters to the Target, write letters to any Minnesota company and say DEI is not illegal. DEI is the opposite of discrimination. And say, okay, so let's look at this. And when you guys try to avoid the use of the term DEI, say diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just say it all out. Because if you're against diversity, then you're for singularity. Only one group can participate in society. If you're against equity, you're for inequity. If you're against inclusion, you're for exclusion. So these people are for singularity, or let's get a better opposite term for diversity, but they're for singularity, they're for inequity, and they're for exclusion. That's
Right.
what they're about. We're about the opposite. I have yet to find the person. Never, as I said, I keep going on how old I am, and I'm 61, 30, 35-year lawyer. I've never heard of a case where somebody lost their job or didn't get a promotion because the company had a DEI program. Racial discrimination is illegal. You cannot do it. You cannot say, we're only hiring this many whites, that many blacks. You can't do that. And the reading that there's a recent Harvard case called the STTA versus Harvard. And these people are completely misreading this case deliberately. But there's no prohibition against diversity, equity, inclusion. And by the way, we need to understand diversity, equity, inclusion better. Diversity, equity, inclusion is not anti-white male like some people say it is. It includes all people. It really is more about belonging and inclusion than it is about exclusion of anyone. If you have a diversity, equity, inclusion program and all the white men at your firm feel like they're being pushed aside or something, then you're doing it wrong. But I've never seen that. I mean, you increase. Now, I have seen a situation where some woman gets the job and all these dudes didn't get the job and now they're mad and they want to say it's DEI. Well, maybe she just was better than you, brother. I'm sorry. You know, but
Yep.
the thing is, when Trump is asked, how come, why is he saying that the fires in LA and the plane crash are DEI? He says they're because of DEI. And the reporter goes, well, why, what's your evidence? He says, common sense. Well, that sounds very 1950s, don't it?
Yep.
Common sense that those people can't drive or those people are only good for farm work. You know, it's terrible. Anyway,
Okay, so we're going to stick up with that for a minute because we're getting a lot of questions in our Q&A. So I'm going to read this one as it came across. It says, so as an educator, if we refuse to report a display in our school for DEI, such as topics taught or treating everyone with equity, who gets in trouble for refusing? The teacher or the school? Can the school back us?
well, let me just say it again, friends, just in case y'all done missed it. A federal judge has issued a nationwide injunction against Donald Trump's executive orders that target diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
Excellent.
Go diversity, equity, and include your little heart out.
Well, that's easy enough.
There you
We can
go.
do that. There you go. It's perfect.
But just do this though. Remember that no one is outside the circle of our compassion. Did you know that the group with the highest morbidity in our society may well be white men over 50, non-college? These folks are the victims of suicides, cirrhosis, and a lot of opioid deaths, anxiety, depression. But you know, here's the terrible thing about white supremacy thinking. It doesn't allow white people to be regular people. Oh, you don't have any problems because you people don't have problems. All of us brownies have all the dysfunction, but it's a lie, and we all know it's a lie. We know that human beings are in pain, and we should all step up to be with them. You know what I mean? We should all, I mean, look, I mean, you know, it's so tragic. You know, they racialize stuff like guns, and then you got all these older guys who don't see a future for themselves, drinking themselves to death and blowing their brains out. I'm serious. Read about this. But it's only because we say one group of people is dysfunctional and the other one is not that we don't even try. I mean, some white kid brings a gun to school. We don't ever stop and say, what's going on with you, man? Let's be there for you, man. Instead, what we do is say, oh, well, he was a lone nut or something, or he was bullied. Or I mean, we just don't deal with it.
Right.
You know, and so I'm sorry to rant like that, but you know,
No,
anyway,
don't apologize. You're saying all the things we need to hear. So
yeah.
it's just fine. I'm going to change course now and ask you a question about uh, Medicare and I'm Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Um, this is, and again, this is a little more legislative, I guess, but people are just really worried. I'm personally worried about this, and for myself and family members. But um, what what should we expect or do, and as it relates to the cuts that they're trying to plan for those programs?
Let me just say, if Stauber or Fishbach or Brad Finstead go anywhere near voting yes, we ought to bring hell down on top of them.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
this one we can stop because how much does Medicaid impact the 7th district of Minnesota? How much is I mean, ask Mayo whether what would happen if there was no Medicaid. We'd see hospitals close, and
hmm.
most of them wouldn't be in the metro or they'd be in rural areas.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how far do you want to walk off this cliff to be a nice, fine, loyal, whatever? He's walking them off a cliff.
Right.
The 6th
So,
congressional district, they got plenty of nursing homes up there. Do y'all know what a dual eligible is? It's somebody who gets Medicaid and Medicare. An older person who gets Medicare because of their age, but they're low income, so they're on Medicaid too. If those nursing homes don't have their Medicaid dollars, forget about it. They're trying to take the richest man in the world is advocating taking money away from the poorest and the sickest people in the country. Does that not make it all plain as day? Come on.
it's pretty despicable.
But just bang on
Uh,
them and protest them and be outside their office and like makes ridiculing songs about them, stuff like that.
well, I'm gonna give a shout out to our friends at our North Metro Indivisible group, because they have been just really, really giving Emmer a hard time. They've been at
Good.
his office nonstop. So, and we want them to keep doing it, and we want other people to go stand out there with them, whether you live in that district or not. So, let's talk about immigration for a second. Immigration raids that have happened. There was one just last week in St. Louis Park. Um, Basically, I guess the question just is, what do you think about that? Is what can we be doing as a community to be allies to our immigrant community, and uh, what should we be on the lookout for
Well,
this type of?
well, in Minnesota, we do not obstruct ICE, but we do not assist ICE. We do not obstruct them, but we don't do a damn thing to help them. And I think it's important for counties to know if you're holding people in jail because you think they're outside of immigration status, you well could be getting yourself signed up for a lawsuit. Unless there is an ICE warrant, you have to follow the law and let them out. Schools, I would say that if you have ICE folks hunting around schools, do not physically interfere with them, but don't give them any information. You know, and I would say that, right now there's a lot of activity going on around schools and jails, and our courts are trying to make sure that ICE knows that, if you're walking through courthouses, all you're going to do is make it so that people who beat up on immigrant women and men maybe, but mostly women, are going to be. These women are not going to go get orders for protection because they're afraid to. Right now, if you like Mexican food, and who doesn't like Mexican food? I love it. Um, the people shopping in Mercado Central over there on Lake Street, the shopping is way down. So I would say, uh, you know, keep on doing things of solidarity. I'd say continue to raise your voices. I'd say keep on protesting people. And I'm gonna tell you, if the state of Minnesota is gonna have a reaction if there's nobody to milk them cows and to slaughter that meat. Because if you've ever gone through Wilmer, you know who works in those plants.
Right.
So I tell you that it does bother me quite a lot because out of all the things, if they nab somebody you care about and love, I'm not sure what you can do. You got to, other than get them a lawyer.
Right.
You got to get them a lawyer. Yeah.
So I got one more question for you, and then we'll kind of wrap up. But
Okay.
one of the things as a grassroots activist group, as we are here with Indivisible Twin Cities and all the other people that are on this call, I think we've all been a bit frustrated with not all of our Democrat elected officials, but with some of them.
Right.
And because we feel like they're almost slow walking on a lot of these things, and they're not out front, they're not mad, they're not putting up a big fuss. And I guess what what are some of the things we can demand of them that they can do right now?
Right.
Not 2 months from now when it's really, really horrible and bad and people are getting arrested, but what can we be doing to push them now? We're calling them, we're writing to them, we're, making snide comments on social media. But what can we really do that might push them to be more forceful?
I think you ought to give yourselves a lot of credit for doing a lot of good things already. I know you're not satisfied because the problem's not over, but what I'd say is lock in for the long haul. I would write them letters. I would call their offices. I would bring them to meet. I would invite them to meetings all the time. I would demand that they make statements on the House floor. I would demand that they make public statements and press statements. I would demand that they, just continue to help educate people. How many of them have a podcast? They all ought to have one. How many of them are posting what's going on and sending out letters and information about what they're doing? They need to do more. There should be somebody on your call every time you have one, whether it's Amy or and then don't. I'm just gonna be candid with y'all. Don't let them give you any defeatist BS. Well, there's nothing we can do because we're not in the majority. We know you're not in the majority. We're not stupid. But what can you do? What have you, what can you do? Did you give a speech on the floor this week? What did you do to help educate your people? Right? And so this is the thing. Don't let them say, we are in the minority, we can't do anything. So what, you're in the minority? Figure out something you can do. Right? And and so that's what I want you all to keep the pressure on. And remember, the DMAGs have been looking like we're working because we are. But the only thing going on is that um, this is kind of in our wheelhouse. This is what we do. We sue people. We defend lawsuits. That's what we do every day. And now it's raining lawsuits, right? So, but what they got to do is do what they do. They legislate. They make laws, and they've got it. And if you can't make the law now, talk about the laws you will pass when you do get in the majority, and talk about the laws you're going to defeat that are coming that are really bad, like the SAVE Act. What's your plan to defeat the SAVE Act? Right? What's your plan
Right.
to defeat these Medicaid cuts? Right? So keep the pressure on them. And not all of them, some of them are going to be on your side. I mean, I think Betty and Ilhan are with you all the way. Um, and I think Tina's totally with you all the way. But let's get Amy on a call and let's hear her sound strong, And I love Amy, and Amy's a great friend, but let's give her a chance to rise to her best, right? Angie, let's give Angie a chance to be all she can be, right? To really rise to the level of the moment. And I will say that's the thing. Inviting them to stuff, getting them to be bold and make strong statements, that's what I think you should do. Um, and don't take, oh, we're in the minority for an answer. Say, we know
Right.
that. I mean, tell us something we don't know, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's true. And then again, I would I would really think about how you guys can be doing this come August 2026. This is a marathon, friends. We're up to it. We're up to it, but we're gonna have to be doing this for a while. It's okay though. It's okay. We can do it. And find ways to pump each other up. Find ways to go on walks with each other. If you live near each other, take care of each other's mental and emotional health. Because this stuff will drive you crazy. It'll depress you. And so
That is true.
make sure you look out for yourself and don't go on that loner thing and don't try to be a tough guy or tough gal by doing it all yourself. And don't be afraid to go. If you're a religious person, go to mass, go to the synagogue, go to the mosque, do what you do to feed yourself emotionally and mentally. This is the chance for us to be the best versions of ourselves ever.
Yay. That's like, so I was going to ask you for some parting words, but I think you just gave them. I don't think you could say anything else that would get everybody excited and pumped up and ready to go as what you just said. So I'm going
Well,
to
Lisa, I'll
thank
only
you.
add one more thing. I'm with you
Okay, go
100%.
ahead.
I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. We're in this thing together, right? And I just want you to know that too. And I don't think that the lawyers are going to win the day. I think Indivisible is going to win the day. Let's do it together. Blessings, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We
Thank
really appreciate
you.
it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, all right. I don't know about you guys, but I'm fired up.
No.
All right, Rebecca, back to you.
Okay. Yeah, Jordan, if you can put up that third slide. Thank you all for, sticking with us. It's 7:36 and we have maybe a few minutes left if you can hang on. And if you can't understand, we understand. But the Attorney General was generous with his time, so he went over a little bit. But that's great. It's perfect. Can you go back to the other one, Jordan, the one that says trans allies? Yeah. Okay. So, here, give me a second. Before I move on to this next part of our agenda, which is all about the call to action portion of the meeting. If you're feeling like it, put a word in the chat that describes just how you're feeling right now, given the Attorney General's responses to our questions and the comments that he made, I guess. Just looking for some initial reactions while I move on to the next part of our meeting, which should go pretty fast. Whenever we do a call like this, we end it with a call to action. And if you've participated in our events before, we have action hours, and normally we're calling elected representatives. We're asking them to vote no or yes on a specific bill. And that's kind of what we talk about when we talk about calls to action. But recently, Attorney General Ellison shared the news that a federal judge blocked Trump's illegal executive order targeting gender-affirming care from taking effect in Minnesota. By saying it is unlawful and grossly immoral for Trump to use the federal government to target trans kids just trying to be themselves. I will not stand for it. There's a bill also being debated in the House today called it's HF 12 that would ban trans kids from competing in sports. And what we decided to do, and there was a rally at the Capitol both in favor of this horrible bill and against it. And the rally against it was sponsored by Outfront Minnesota. So today we're doing something slightly different for a call to action. We're asking you to donate to one or both of the organizations listed on your screen. So even if you can donate $5 to either Outfront Minnesota, who was the lead organizer of today's rally at the Capitol and is on the forefront of supporting LGBTQ rights in Minnesota, or the Trevor Project, which is a nonprofit organization that provides counseling support to LGBTQ plus youth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they have seen the Trevor Project has seen a rapid increase in requests for their services, especially over the past month. And donations make a difference in the lives of trans and LGBTQ plus youth. Both organizations need support. And so we'd love to just take a couple of minutes to give you a chance to donate by using the QR code on your screen. To make donations, and we will report back in a follow-up email on the amount that we were able to raise. And so we'll just take a second for that. If you are able, of course. and while you're working through that process, I will just say that one way to be an ally is to provide it's one of the things we're trying to do within Indivisible Twin Cities, because when we talked earlier about Trump proofing our state, we know that certain communities are going to be more at risk and in direct harm's way. And the LGBT plus community is one of those, and especially right now, trans folks. So this is the way to be an ally to those communities. And one second. Back down. And then the next thing, you know what, I'm just going to pause for a minute and give you all a chance to get these QR codes if you wish and not rush through this. So Jordan, you could play the music again if you want.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want to do it while we're live streaming. I don't want to give
okay.
it
Okay.
a reason to complain about
Gotcha.
copyright.
Yep.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. Get a you know, drink of water, come back. Yeah, and if it's easier to use the websites, you can do it that way too, if the QR code is clunky or something.
Yes, the chat. Sue is posting links in the chat. Very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, and you know, we didn't get to all the questions, and we can find out from the Attorney General's staff if he would be willing to you know, answer in writing the questions that we didn't get to, but you know, no promises there. But there were so many questions coming from all of you, so we thank you for those. Yeah. Okay, I think we can go on to the next one. Jordan, oops. Yeah, the one that says, yeah, this is one that you can, you know, simply take a screenshot or open up through the QR code, the link to the Attorney General's community forums. So he asked us to share this with you, with all of you. He is holding community forums all around the state with the intent of sharing with Minnesotans what he is doing to defend our citizens or our residents from federal attacks. So I would imagine similar to what we had tonight. So if you are in any of these places, please use the link to register and show up in force and in support of the work that he is doing, which we know from tonight is a lot and very significant. And one thing that he said early on, which I wrote down, which should be like a inspiration for all of us. But he said something like, you know, he's doing his job. What lawyers do is bring lawsuits. But he also said the courts aren't going to save us. The court of public opinion is going to save us. And so it's up to all of us to continue to find a way to fight back, whether it's attending protests or calling our reps or just continuing to show up to events like this in support. Talk to your friends about, you know, when you read in the news that something is happening at the federal level, and maybe you have some friends that don't pay that much attention to the news, you know, let them know what's happening. It's a part of what we all can do in using our voice right now in this time when, you know, things are pretty scary. So anything else? I think I just maybe turn it over to Lisa or Jordan if you have any parting thoughts. Otherwise, I think we'll.
I did want to just say one quick thing,
Okay.
because I did feel like it was something that was important when he made a point to tell us not to um, attack Trump voters, and which is such an easy target, right? Especially if they're somebody that you know. But you know that these are people that it's better if, I know we've mostly given up on trying to convert them, but as things get harder and harder and their own pocketbooks are affected, I think being a little more gentle might be a good way to, better way to go. And believe me, that I struggle with this myself. So, but I really liked that he made a point of saying that.
Yeah. He also said that a couple of times defeatism is not allowed. And I think that's also a challenge, right now. We often say that action is the antidote to anxiety. And I really believe that for me, taking action, even if there's not I can't see a direct link to what I do and some future result, it still makes me feel like I'm doing something, and my anxiety is lessened as a result. So let's try and help each other not to be defeated or defeatist, I guess. Somebody asked, a couple of people have asked, I think, if the session is being recorded. And Jordan, it is, are we going to send out a link to the recording, or how does that work?
It will be so the live stream will be recorded, and then we can just send out a link to that.
Okay. Okay.
Unfortunately, the live stream doesn't capture emojis, which is like one of the best parts about this, but it's got the good stuff.
Okay.
The words.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone. It was great to see you all, and just keep up the good work, keep showing up, do what you can do, and it all makes a difference and it all matters. So thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thanks
Good
for
night.
coming.
Thanks for coming.
Well, I'm going to hang up.
I'm going to stop the live stream.
Oh, just stay on for a minute, Lisa. Let's stay on till